So the first thing that new oil painters get wrong is they get too concerned with the whole fat over lean thing. You're just starting out with oil paints, I don't think you really need to worry about this much. If you don't fully understand what fat over lean means, I'm gonna explain it really simply right now. See, when an oil paint is drying, it can be dry to the touch, but still be wet underneath. And sometimes oil paint can take 6 months to a year to fully dry all the way through. And while it is doing that process of drying all the way through, the paint is molding, it's expanding, contracting, it's moving. So say if you're working on a painting and you haven't gotten to it in a few days and it dries to the touch, you're gonna wanna make sure that the next paint that you put on it is fatter. Now what is fatter? Fatter means it has more oil in it. Oil paint is pretty much made up of the pigment and oil. So on one end of the spectrum, you got paint with paint thinner. On the other end of the spectrum, you have paint with oil, like linseed oil in it. And in the middle, straight paint. And of course, there's a wide variety of combinations in between. My opinion is that if you're just starting out, you should be doing paintings that take you 1 to 3 sittings max. Because if you're working on a painting and the paint never fully dries by the time you're done, you don't really have to worry about fat over lean because the paint, it's all mixing together and there aren't really distinct layers to crack. And I've talked about this a lot in my videos, but the benefit to painting such quick paintings is that it's gonna make you get better at painting faster. The more repetitions you can get at painting a painting from beginning to end, the better. Because each painting offers different problems for you to solve. So if you're working on a painting for weeks and weeks, you're only getting practice solving those particular problems. All right, now the second thing that I see new oil painters get wrong is that they're always trying to get their paint to dry faster. Now getting your paint to dry faster isn't a bad thing. I know there's a lot of great painters out there that get their paint to dry faster, and that's fine. I just think that if you're just starting out, it's better to lean into what makes oil paints different, which is the slow dry time. If you want paints that dry really quickly and so you can layer on top of them, you should just stick with acrylics and watercolors. Now I know it can be extremely frustrating when you first move to oils and like they're not drying, you don't know how to manipulate them and your colors are getting all muddy and you can't build paint. So here are a few things that will help you working that wet into wet paint. First thing is work thin to thick. Now don't get this confused with fat over lean. Thin to thick is just the thickness of the paint. And I mean, you can just see this visually. You know, there's paint with paint thinner, and then there's paint with medium, and then there's just straight paint. This is why a lot of times in my paintings, I start out with just paint and paint thinner, whether it's a wash or if it's just thin paint that I'm pushing around. But by the end of the painting, I'm using a lot thicker paint, sometimes even using a palette knife to lay on that thick paint at the very, very end. Now, another helpful thing you can do is work dark to light. It's a lot easier to lighten paint opposed to darkening it. You know, even when I block out the light and shadow of an object, when I'm blocking out the light side, I'm trying to block it out as the darkest light that I can so I can build dark to light. And the third tip is work around the painting. Sometimes I'll lay in an area and work around the painting and come back to that area about like 15 minutes or so later. Now the paint's not gonna dry up completely in that 15 minutes, but it's going to set up enough and get tacked up enough that it's gonna be easier to paint over top of. And also lastly, working wet into wet paint is just gonna have so many advantages to it and open up so many more possibilities of effects that you can do with the oil paint. You know, getting softer edges, working colors into other colors. I know it can be difficult and scary at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's gonna allow you to do so much more. All right, moving on to number 3, which is I see a lot of beginners choosing not the best photos to paint from. Now in time, your ability to choose better photos is just gonna naturally get better because you're gonna paint more paintings and you'll be able to spot the issues that a photo is gonna give you when you paint it. A lot of times I'll see students trying to paint a photo and I'm thinking, man, like I don't even think I could make that photo work into a painting. So things to look for in a photo that will translate well into a painting is look for distinct light and shadow. Whenever I set up my still life paintings, I try and have just one light to create very distinct light and shadow shapes. Same thing goes with portraits. Just being able to block things out right at the beginning, which is light and shadow, and get a good sense of the form is gonna make things a lot easier. That's why it's really difficult to paint portraits from photos with a flash, because there's no distinct light and shadow. That makes it very difficult. Now with landscapes, exposure is a big thing. Because a lot of times you have to either expose for the sky or the ground. Meaning if you want like the ground and trees and everything to be bright enough, the sky's gonna be kind of blown out and too bright. And if you expose for the sky, the ground and the trees, everything's gonna be pretty dark. So if you're taking the photos, try and take one for each so you have a reference for each one when you're painting. And you can also take a video with your phone and just take verbal notes, like things that you're seeing in real life that aren't coming up in the photo. Most of the time with photos, the contrast is higher, meaning the darks are going to be darker and the lights are going to be lighter, which means you're not going to be able to see as much in the shadows of a photo. So take note of the colors you see in the shadows and how bright it actually is in the shadow. You know, just having those verbal notes or even mental notes is going to help a lot. Specifically with landscapes, I feel like photos can be so deceiving. I've actually made a whole video on how landscape photos can trick you and what to look out for. If you want to check that out, I'll put a link to it above right now. All right, the last thing in terms of bad photos is a lot of times photos with a ton of detail can make it more difficult, because you get zeroed in on the detail, which is not what you want to be focusing on. You always want to be focusing on the big picture, the big shapes, the big values. This is why a lot of times in my tutorials, I will purposefully use a blurred photo at the beginning to help my students not get sucked into those details too early. All right, now before we move on, I just want to let you know that if you struggle with color mixing, I'm not going to get into it in this video, but I do offer the color mixing video from my Foundations of Oil Painting course for free. I have a link to that in the description of this video. All right, number 4 is I see a lot of beginner painters sitting down when they paint. Now you're probably thinking, really? Like, what's wrong with sitting down? Well, there are a few things. One is that you're more prone to get really close to the canvas, which is the opposite of what you want to do. You want to be standing back away from the canvas as much as you can. I'm always trying to, at the very least, have my arm fully extended when I'm painting to at least be an arm's length away from my canvas. And if I'm sitting down and doing that, I get such a bad pain behind my shoulder blades. And also, I just want to have the ability to step back when I paint. I've seen a lot of painting instructors actually put a piece of tape 6 feet behind their student's easel, and they tell their students they have to go and stand behind that piece of tape after every mark they make on the painting. And I think that's a very good thing to do. So like, you see a shape you want to make with the brush, you go up, you make that shape, you step back 6 or 7 feet, you take in the painting, you see what you want to do next, you go up, make a mark, come back, make a mark. Just seeing your painting from that far away is going to make you see it so differently, and it's going to force you to only see the important parts, the things that matter, the big shapes, the big values, the big composition, the drawing. It's a lot easier to see drawing mistakes from 7 feet back than really, really close. But if you have to sit down in a chair, at least try and have a chair with wheels so you can, you know, wheel back from it, and just don't get caught getting super close to the canvas. All right, number 5 is I see a lot of beginners holding their brush wrong. I see a lot of beginners wanting to, hold on. All right, there we go. I see a lot of beginners wanting to hold it like a pencil, and you really want to try and avoid that. You want to hold it like a conductor of a symphony holds their wand. And I always hold it at the end of the handle. You know, I always like getting the long handles. That's why my brush set from Rosemary & Co. all have long handles. I like to be able to step back, and it just, you know, it adds a little more length to how far I can get away from my painting while still being able to reach it. But also holding it like this is going to make it a lot easier to change the direction at which you make brush strokes. The direction of your brush strokes are really important. You want to be able to effortlessly change it to the way you want it to go. Now, yes, there is time to hold the brush like a pencil. You know, if you're doing details at the end, or you have to make very small marks. But most of the time, holding it at the end like this is the way to go. All right, number 6 is I see a lot of beginners trying to follow too many different processes or ways of painting. This totally happened to me when I was first trying to learn how to plein air paint. You know, I'd see one person and how they did it, and I'd try and follow them for a few weeks, and then I'd see somebody else's paintings I like, and I'd try and follow them and what they did, and they painted differently. They had different materials, they had different ways of building a painting, and it kind of just left me more confused every single time I switched to someone different. You know, there's a lot of different ways to go about painting, and they're all great. I mean, most of it's just personal taste of how you want your paintings to look, what kind of style you like. But I do believe any good way of painting or style or whatever, at the core of them is a good understanding of the fundamentals. That's things like drawing, composition, color, value, and edges. You know, whatever way you have to go to get to those and to understand those is fine. Just don't try and get too caught up in like a style or, you know, someone's materials they use. Because a lot of painters, especially if they've been painting for a while, they develop a very specific process that they particularly like themselves. And a lot of times it can not be the best for a student to just like try and do something they see somebody else doing that's, you know, really specific without understanding like why or the fundamentals behind it. So, you know, try and find a process that you like that makes sense to you. And it's good to experiment, but if you're just starting out, you know, I would say like the first few years of painting, try and keep things simple. Try and just have one process that you can continually make steps forward in. Because if you're trying a whole bunch, you're just gonna be making a bunch of lateral steps and not steps forward. All right, number 7 is a thing that I was extremely guilty of, which is I see a lot of new painters, once they start painting, they stop drawing. Drawing is so important. I'm gonna quote a great portrait painter in Michael Shane Neal from his book, and say, by far the most important principle in painting is drawing. Now I get a lot of people asking me like, oh, should I learn how to draw before I start painting? No, you'll learn to draw as you paint. Like you're gonna have to draw in order to paint, and you'll kind of just learn it at once. That being said, it wouldn't hurt to practice to draw, but it's not like you have to get to a certain level of drawing before you start painting. See, what happened to me was I fell into the trap of thinking, you know, you're a kid and you draw, and then you move to watercolors or acrylics and then oils, and it was like this hierarchy. And so once I was oil paint, I was like, oh, like I don't need to worry about drawing anymore. And then like if you start getting commissions and stuff, you know, there's a time crunch. You're like, oh, like I don't have time to like figure out the drawing of this. I'm just going to trace it. And you stop developing your drawing skills. I remember specifically I got to a point with my portraits where like I just wasn't like taking any more steps forward. And I came to realize that my drawing skills were nowhere near what they needed to be. So I made it a very strong point to improve my drawing skills that year. Now, don't get this confused in thinking like I'm saying, oh, if there's a painting that was done, you know, where they traced the initial drawing, it's a less of a painting. I'm not saying that at all. Like, I don't care whether you trace or not in terms of the quality of work. I feel like it has no bearing on the quality of the work. I just think that if you're not practicing your drawing skills every chance you get, you're cheating yourself out of how good you could become. And if you don't develop strong drawing skills, it's really gonna limit you if you ever want to paint from life, whether that's plein air painting or portraits from life or figures from life, because you're gonna have to have drawing skills. Like you're not gonna be able to trace from life or use a grid in life. Now this doesn't mean that you have to rely completely on freehand drawing. You know, I use a proportional divider a lot to get measurements, or I'll do the thing where you hold your brush and you get measurements. That's fine. You know, a lot of my tutorials, I'll use a simple grid to help walk people through drawing stuff in. And it's okay to trace and draw from time to time. Just don't get carried away with it, and make sure that you're giving the attention to the skill of drawing that you're giving to the skill of color and value and brushwork. It's just as important, if not more. All right, number 8. See a lot of beginner painters worrying too much about detail. They're putting too much of an emphasis on detail, and they're thinking a lot of times that it can, you know, make or break their painting or save their painting. You know, I've been there before. You got a painting, it's not going well, and you think, oh, like maybe if I just, you know, add a lot more detail in this one area, or really develop and paint, you know, all these leaves, like that will bring the painting together and make it work. Never the case. You really want to be focusing on the big things. Coming back to the fundamentals, really want to be focusing on those. The composition, the drawing, the values, the colors, the edges. You know, when I start out a painting, I block it out in big shapes of flat color. And I really try and get the painting to work at that base level. I know if I can make it looking somewhat decent in reading at that early stage, I know I have something, and it's worth developing and adding more detail on top of. I try and give my students exercises to emphasize this idea. Like I have one where I paint a landscape on a very small canvas using a very big brush, which forces you to see and paint in big shapes. Another one is doing quick studies of an apple. You know, paint an apple in 10 minutes. Or again, using a blurred photo to paint from so you can't see the detail. All right, number 9 is I see a lot of painters painting for the product, not the process. Meaning every time they sit down and paint, they're trying to come out with a painting that they're going to showcase or sell or whatever. I mean, it's fine to do that, but if you don't go with the mindset of just willing to learn and learning is the #1 priority, one, you're going to get very discouraged because a lot of times your paintings aren't going to work out. And if you have these high expectations of this being something that you're going to showcase or sell, it's going to be a big letdown. And also, if you're more excited about the process of painting, you're going to want to paint a lot more. And you're going to also be willing to do things that are going to make you better. You know, I fell into this trap early on. And I remember when I was younger, I would only want to paint if it was something that was going to be like a finished, polished painting. And I hated doing exercises. You know, looking back, I realized I didn't want to do the exercises because I didn't understand how important they were. I kind of like learned in reverse. Like I did a lot of painting. And once I developed a certain skill level, I realized what really made a painting work, which were the fundamentals. And then I could go back and see, oh, like that's why these exercises are important. You know, same with studies. Like I never really understood what people meant when they said, oh, like I did small studies. But now I do. Like you have to kind of fiddle and play around and figure things out. All right, and the last thing is I don't see a lot of beginners analyzing their failed paintings and learning from their mistakes. Again, I didn't do this when I was younger, because I know you do a painting and it doesn't work out. You're frustrated and you just want to get it behind you and move on. I get that. But try to at least identify one thing that you didn't do well that you'll work on to do better in your next painting. And more specifically, try to categorize that one thing into one of the fundamentals. You know, drawing, composition, color, value, or edges. Don't just say like, oh, like I painted that tree bad. Say, no, I got the wrong value of that tree, or I drew that tree in wrong, or that tree is in the wrong place for the composition of the painting. And then you can think, okay, let me look at some of my other paintings. Is this a common thing that I'm doing wrong? Are my compositions weak? It's like, oh yeah, my compositions are weak. All right, I need to work on composition. I need to go read up on composition. I need to check out Edgar Payne's book on composition. I need to do a bunch of small little studies in my sketchbook, just practicing composition. You know, that's how you're going to get better. I mean, yes, you can just paint and just paint and paint and paint and paint a lot of paintings, and you will just naturally get better from painting a lot of paintings. That's what I did, but looking back, I feel like I could have gotten better a lot faster by having just a little bit of structure to my learning and my process. All right, that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you want to see what I am painting on a daily basis, you can follow me on Instagram at Forza43. I'm Chris Fornatero, here telling you to go get painting.